Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again, and we're back to our extravaganza. This is a bit of an odd one, mainly because it's an issue of What If, covering something we've never talked about before. I don't think we've ever even mentioned it. Atlantis Attacks. Atlantis Attacks was a 1989 crossover storyline taking place across all the special annual issues of that year in Marvel's superhero books. Now, as I've said, I make a distinction when it comes to crossover storylines and event comics, but many would argue that there really isn't much to distinguish them. They both involve crossovers between many characters with a story that spans across the book's universe, or even at least a line of comics, like how Batman has had frequent crossover storylines that affect all the Batman-related books, but since they don't have a central miniseries, I don't count them as events. Even if you disagree with me about how I designate an event, I have to do it if just for the sake of brevity. Some crossover storylines encompass dozens of books. Batman No Man's Land, for instance, has 52 main story issues, 88 comics in total if you count books just connected as tie-ins. It's too much. And even worse, trying to chronicle every single one of them for voting. Thus, crossover storyline makes a lot more sense as something distinct from an event that has a central miniseries. It's still a big story, but it means I'm not bogged down trying to cover hundreds of books in a single month in detail. But still, such storylines happened and had an impact in one way or another. And that brings us to Atlantis Attacks. This is not to be confused with another miniseries that came out in 2025, also called Atlantis Attacks, because Marvel reuses titles so much you'd think they were Hollywood releasing a legacy sequel. Anyway, in this story, a deviant, the evil counterparts to the Eternals, named Gour, this is going to be a fun episode full of different pronunciations, isn't it? Plots to reassemble the Serpent Crown, an absolutely goofy-looking but powerful artifact that imbues its wearer with the power of the Elder God Set, though it also corrupts them and forces them into obeying Set. So marketing should probably downplay that in the commercials for it. Gour intends to use the crown to summon Set to Earth to destroy it, kidnapping 7 of Earth's superheroines to act as Set's brides that would give birth to a son for each of Set's 7 heads, and the progeny would rule all of creation and every reality thereafter. Fortunately, due to the intervention of Earth's heroes, Gour was stopped and Set kept imprisoned. All was right with the world. And you may have noticed in that summary that there wasn't a lot of Atlantis attacking. That's because the title is a wee bit misleading. Yes, Gour does help convince the king of Atlantis, Atuma, to start a war with the surface world, but for most of the story, the war with Atlantis is really more of a backdrop thing. People talking about it happening. A few times we see heroes actively engaging with Atlantis' forces, but more often dealing with Gour and his various machinations to kidnap the 7 brides and get the power they need to summon Set. In fact, the war's purpose is itself to make Atlantis lose, the intention being that the Atlanteans will be sacrificed ritually in battle like this to bring about Set. I'm just saying, when you call the story Atlantis Attacks, it feels like that should be the main focus. Instead, the title should have been something like The 7 Heads of Armageddon or something. So yeah, victory for the good guys after 14 action-packed annuals. But what if things had gone wrong? Well, let's dig into What If number 25, What If the Marvel superheroes had lost Atlantis Attacks, and see how bad things would have been.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn.
The cover is crowded, but still gets the idea across. All the heads of the various heroes and villains involved in the original Atlantis attacks surrounding the main image, that of Set rising from the ocean. Or maybe the idea is like, oh really, you have 7 heads? Look how many we've got, asshole! We open with the Watcher giving us a recap of Atlantis attacks. You are witnessing the beginning of what is destined to become one of the planet Earth's most devastating battles. Tickets are on sale now. The Watcher explains that the event started with the Silver Surfer unwittingly bringing Gar back to life from continuity that doesn't matter here. Gar then went back to Earth, tricked the Atlanteans into attacking the surface world, and then set about his threefold plan. First, create a youth group that claimed it could cure drug addiction, but instead turned the recruits into lizard people. And this is why I didn't join any clubs or groups as a child. Although points to them, it did technically cure the addiction, but this is why we list side effects. Secondly, recreate the serpent crown, but make it really big, because it'd look good on the Statue of Liberty or something, I don't know. And finally, the brides thing. Probably the ickiest part of the event, though thankfully there was no actual mind control, rape, or mystical pregnancy or anything. The brides would give birth to Set's children, who would go on to conquer other dimensions in his name. And thus, his plans were foiled by the combined strength of one of the greatest gatherings of heroes the world had ever seen. It was so good, so blinding in its brilliance, that many of the readers just plumb forgot that it happened. We weren't meant to have such greatness in our lifetime. But there are other realities where not even this proud assemblage would prove enough. Admittedly, in most of those universes, everyone was made of cream cheese, so they were already facing an uphill battle. But yeah, despite the title on the cover being, What If the Marvel Superheroes Had Lost Atlantis Attacks, the actual title of this is, What If Set Had Come to Earth? Even though, technically, Set did arrive on Earth during Atlantis attacks, it's just they were able to stop him. But yeah, in this case, the Watcher details 3 events that went badly in this timeline. For instance, Namor was seemingly killed early in the event, only to show up later having survived it, while here, nope, he's dead and didn't come to help save the day. Then, the Punisher and Moon Knight had teamed up to stop the youth group mass-producing the drug that turned people into serpent men, but here they failed and fell victim to the same drug. And finally, when Set was summoned, Doctor Strange, Thor, Quasar, and Ben Grimm traveled inside of Set's body, which, him being an elder god and all, was less stomach acids and more an entire universe in and of itself with an even freakier version of Set within. Makes you wish this was Cthulhu. According to Doom of the Dark Ages, you can go inside Cthulhu's stomach and wreak some hell. Inside, Thor was able to communicate with the elder god Atop, who could imprison Set again with the power of the Demogorge. Here, he fails to convince Atop to help, and thus, Quasar is knocked back by the freakier Set, supposedly his true form. Ben Grimm got chopped down, and with multiple blasts, Doctor Strange is incinerated. With no other choice, Thor retreats back to Earth, where things go from bad to worse. A lot of the Avengers are either engulfed in flames or eaten, as is Gar for that matter. Just as well, the 7-headed snake god who never actually utters a single line of dialogue is a more interesting villain than Gar was. And as Set turns his full attention towards his brides, the Avengers pick up the bodies of their fallen friends and depart, realizing as they go that the brides are in no danger and that they have to regroup. Look, ladies, I appreciate that you were put up to this whole brides thing, but I am actually very gay and in a committed relationship with Chthon, the archdemon creator of vampires and werewolves. The heroes soon regroup and get reinforcements, but Set's own forces are overwhelming, and several more heroes are killed. It's made even worse when Set has one of the brides activate a sonic cannon that collapses the city they're in, killing most of the heroes and their own forces. Those who do not die in the destruction of the Lemurian city are felled by the ever-growing might of the serpent, or are felled by his ever-growing lawsuits against them for attacking him in his home, ruining them financially. Thor survives, but is thrown clear of the ocean. Soon, the world's water supply is poisoned, transforming most people into serpents. We cut to a few days later at Four Freedoms Plaza, where Thor has gathered up the last few heroes and villains who have managed to evade transformation, mostly due to their own powers. Wolverine, Rachel Summers, Doctor Doom, Joe Fixit, aka the Grey Hulk, Sabretooth, Cloak, and Jesus Christ. Oh, wait, no, that's Aquarian. Aquarian is a kind of weird pastiche and parody of Superman, though his appearance greatly changed so DC wouldn't sue them, and not quite having the same power set. But he is, at the very least, an alien with immense power, so it tracks that he'd be immune to the transforming water. Sabretooth suggests they kill the brides to prevent Set's efforts from expanding his power base. Thor rejects the idea of slaughtering innocent mind-controlled women, especially people he's fought alongside, though Doom is more open. Sabretooth's disrespectful tone toward me aside, a breach of manners you shall pay for in time, mutant. Doom demands that we follow the rules of etiquette while we make our plans. We are civilized beings, are we not? Now, what's the best place to stab these people? Despite Thor, Cloak's, and Aquarian's objections to the idea, Wolverine and Joe Fixit have to admit that killing the brides may be their best bet, though Wolverine says that he has to be the one to kill Jean Grey. One thing, though, I get Marvel Girl. It's personal. I notice that Rachel Summers has no objection to Wolverine saying he's gonna kill her mother. Sure, alternate timeline and all, but still. Also, she says nothing during the entire meeting. What the hell? Doom plans for Thor, Rachel, and himself to take on Set directly while the others deal with the brides. Meanwhile, inside the internal universe of Set, Quasar has been floating around for days before he finally locates an object he can use to slingshot around and get himself back to where the fight was occurring. Though that apparently doesn't take him very long, locating the remains of Ben Grimm and Doctor Strange. Oh dear lord, no! Mr. Grimm and Doctor Strange! They're dead! They were my ride! I can't afford an Uber! We cut back to our... well, I was gonna say heroes, but, well, you know. Anyway, Thor's team engages Set, who's just chilling in Times Square, I guess, as the rest leap down and begin their own fight, engaging superheroes who have been turned into serpents, Wolverine getting in to stab a serpent Magneto in the throat. Ugh, did you have to do that? Oh god, you got blood and scales all over my clothes! This is dry clean only, and all the cleaners are lizards now! The Hulk takes on Colossus and Rogue, even using Colossus's body as a bat to send Rogue flying away. Cloak encounters the New Mutants, who apparently also have had their brains shrunk to that of a lizard, since they all just run straight into Cloak, and are apparently sent to their doom. After the Hulk snaps Colossus's neck, he then has to kill Spider-Man and punch Rogue hard enough to send her flying into orbit. So here's the thing about What If. More often than not, since they're out-of-continuity tales usually depicting a worst-case scenario for the Marvel Universe, it was oftentimes just used as an excuse to go, hey, I can just kill all these characters and it doesn't matter! And hey, like I said, it's non-canon anyway. Killing these characters means nothing to the actual Marvel Universe or their character development or anything. It's just that this is the 25th issue, so it's double-sized, and it seems that instead of exploring the question of, what if Set took over Earth? It's instead, what if a bunch of supervillains killed a bunch of heroes and they had weird lizard heads instead? I don't know, it just seems like a bit of a weird way to spend so much of this issue like you're writing an especially dark fanfic. Aquarian refuses to kill, agreeing with Cloak to simply send them into the null sphere abyss of his cloak. They'll be floating around in eternal cold and darkness, but at least they'll be alive. Which is more than can be said for Daredevil, whom Wolverine stabs. And I'm sorry, but the horror and drama of the situation is really not helped by the fact that the lizard people just look absolutely goofy. It's like somebody stuck the wrong head on an action figure. I don't know how you make an illustration look like a cheap, low-budget effect, but somehow this comic managed to do it. The group realizes they were only successful against so many because the drug in their systems slowed them down, and they'll have a harder time against the brides, who are unleashed on them. Storm almost immediately fries Sabretooth with lightning. Feels like his healing factor should be able to handle that, but whatever. She-Hulk takes on the Hulk, who laughs off the attacks, until the Invisible Woman projects a force field around his head to cut off his oxygen. Wolverine gets tossed around by Jean Grey. Jeannie, don't! It's me, Logan! Oh, she knows. She just saw X-Men The Last Stand for the first time. Wolverine is tossed at Aquarian, the mutant thinking that there's nothing to fear between Aquarian's null field and his own adamantium skeleton. But then the Scarlet Witch comes in, and he uses her hex power to transform his molecules into antimatter as they collide with the null field, annihilating both of them, save for his adamantium skeleton. Something we have learned today, adamantium is not matter, or else it would have been destroyed too.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
The Hulk tries to go after the Invisible Woman to get the force field off his head, but is soon attacked by She-Hulk and the Atlantean Andromeda, trying to knock the wind out of him. Scarlet Witch soon assists Storm and Dagger as they overload him with light until his cloak folds in on itself and he's killed, screaming at Dagger to ask why she doesn't recognize him. One minor detail that's different from the actual Atlantis Attacks book is that the superheroines could still speak while under mind control. Here, we are 25 pages in, and not a single female character has uttered a line of dialogue, good guys or bad, and I think that's weird. The Scarlet Witch proves to be the MVP of this fight as she uses her powers to revert the Hulk into Bruce Banner, allowing She-Hulk and Andromeda to beat him to death. Wait, that was always an option? The Scarlet Witch always had the ability to just turn the Hulk back into Bruce Banner? Because I feel like a lot of situations could have been resolved very quickly if that's the case. Back in Set's internal dimension, Quasar has located the Eye of Agamotto. What is this? It's no mere trinket. It's a doodad! Quasar, I think you might have come down with something. Your skin is looking very blue and cosmic right now. Yes, I know, healthcare is needlessly expensive, but sometimes you just have to go, man. In any case, he thinks the eye might be the key to victory. Back over to Times Square, we check in on those battling Set. Doom encourages Rachel Summers to unleash the full power of the Phoenix on it, but she's reluctant because of how powerful the entity is. At least she finally gets a line, though. Thor encourages the same, not helped by Set swallowing Mjolnir. Doom gets blasted by Set's fire breath, but of course he's Doom, so even as his force field fails him, he needs to proclaim how awesome he is. Defeat is for lesser men! The force field must hold, even if I have to convert all of my armament's energy to do it! It will hold, for I am Doom! Do you hear me, monster? I am Doom! No, man, I'm pretty sure you're toast. Also, dude, what was your plan? Just stand there and hope Set is in awe of your ability to withstand his fire? I am Doom! Master of the stick shift, with the resilience of a baked potato! Be impressed, damn it! Seeing Doom get roasted forces Rachel to unleash the full power of the Phoenix in a splash page that's very impressive. Love the silhouette of the city and the snakes in front. Set realizes that he's actually facing against a true threat here, and when you're a bunch of snakes, your options are kind of limited for battle, so it tries to consume Phoenix, while Thor summons back his hammer. Distracted by that, Mjolnir explodes one of the snake heads as it flies out. Unfortunately, the force of that was so strong that it causes an energy feedback that knocks back both Set and the Phoenix, draining Rachel of all her power so she can plummet to her death. And no, she is not rescued, we're just upping the body count again. Base coward! Thou doth not face a mortal female now! Wow! Even though the Phoenix was the only thing that Set was afraid of during this fight, Thor still has to just call her merely a mortal female. Spoilers, Thor ain't gonna be doing much better. Between the brides not speaking, Rachel getting no lines until Doom dies, and then getting killed, Sabretooth being all, yeah, let's kill all the babes, during the meeting, and now this, I'm beginning to think this comic has some issues with women. Don't read too much into that, like I'm calling the writers specifically misogynistic. Just reads like a bit of casual sexism because they didn't think about the implications of all this. It seems Set was able to absorb some of the power of the Phoenix when it was trying to eat her, so the remaining 6 heads unleash their fire breath with enhanced strength at Thor. And he is even more cooked than Doom was. However, Thor is a god and all, so the earth itself forms a fist that grabs him and drags him down into the core, where a naked Gaia, Thor's mother, puts him in amber or something. Oh, Thor, my beloved one. Though I grow weak and old with Set's ascension, and though I could not save this world which is my soul, or the mortals who once walked my fertile fields, I did at least save a bunch of money on my car insurance. Small comfort, I know, but you've got to take the wins where you can get them, son. But no, she says she couldn't stand idly by and let him die. Fortunately for the Earth, help arrived from space. Atlantis Attacks began with the Silver Surfer, and this version is ending with him. He had decided in that Gar was not his problem and he had other fish to fry, though at least made sure to contact several heroes on Earth to warn them. However, in this What If, he's realized that he was wrong and has come to help. So many of my former comrades, those whom I have called friend, are lost, gone in the defense of their mother world. I'll take the L on this one, guys. Probably should have done more sooner, but hey, better late than never, right? Oh yeah, you're all dead because I'm late. And still the serpent grows ever larger, large enough now to be seen from space. Not really. We can see how big it is in this panel, and it's still only as tall as a skyscraper. Still, the Surfer swears that if he wouldn't let Galactus devour Earth, he won't let Set do it either. The battle does go okay for a while, to the point where the Power Cosmic is able to blow up another head, but once Set recovers from the agony of that, he unleashes his full power on the Surfer, blasting him away. More help arrives in the form of Quasar. As you can see, he's gotten a bit of an upgrade. Apparently off-panel, he's been possessed by the power of Captain Universe. Captain Universe is a whole other story we won't get into today. Combine that with his quantum bands, and he's bigger than Set. He uses the Eye of Agamotto to open up a portal to another realm, sucking both himself and Set inside of it, and sealed away in the Eye. I know we're fighting against a god here, but it still feels weird that this is being resolved by a bit of a Deus Ex Machina. The Watcher exposits that after that, the Silver Surfer gave him the Eye of Agamotto for safekeeping, Set and Quasar battling inside of it for all eternity. In theory, it'll keep Set contained forever, but this is not a happy ending. See, humanity still had been transformed into serpent people, and the brides had already been impregnated. And so our comic ends with the Watcher revealing that the children of Set, giant serpents themselves, were born, ate their mothers, and proceeded to devour all of humanity. And once they reached maturity, each snake set out into the multiverse to try to conquer other universes. And, dear friend, your reality might be next. Call our toll-free number to vote on if it will. This comic isn't that great, in my opinion. And I hate to say that because the patron who requested this said it was their very first comic and they thought it still held up. It's not painfully awful or anything, but it feels like a minor exercise in misery. The patron was correct in that it feels like something epic is happening on every page. Artistically, the book is pretty beautifully rendered, showing the scale of horror and destruction wrought by Set's arrival, how desperately deadly and powerful he is that some of the heaviest hitters get flash fried, so that even the Phoenix Force could be consumed by it, and thus you need almost godly cosmic strength to at least fight him to a standstill. You have some great last stand moments of these characters, but therein lies the problem. It's tons of last stands before Set is finally defeated. However, after all that pain and hardship and death, the human race is reduced to mindless snacks for Set's children. No sense of justice or closure for those who died or the poor brides who were also used to murder their friends, and in turn the human race. And sure, not every story needs to have a happy ending, but it equally feels like too dark an ending for this. That it didn't even matter if they defeated Set because his children would still be born and the human race would still be destroyed while his kids set off to deal even more death. I think I'd be more okay with this if, say, humanity was restored, but then the ending hints that Set's children are stillborn, and we leave on that quasi-cliffhanger. It implies there will be more of an apocalypse, but we don't actually get to see their victory. It's left to the imagination where things go from there. Instead, it's just, everybody's dead, the end. Like I said, it's not so egregious as to warrant any anger, but I do not like how that's how it resolves. And that's just my opinion. Next time, the extravaganza begins to wind down a bit. Yes, we still have Patreon-sponsored reviews that were scheduled for the first few months of 2026 to do. However, we're in the home stretch at least for those that were supposed to come out last year. We're going to look at some issues of Alan Moore's series Top 10.
I'm sitting on my couch reviewing comics, the worst words that you will ever see. It's sad that comic books are for kids, but they're not. They're for everybody. If you doubt that I am a man, I am a man.
The comic also includes two one-page joke what-ifs. What if the Punisher was Galactus' herald? wherein he just blows up planets instead of finding them for him. And What If Human Torch and Iceman Were Partners, wherein their powers negate each other and they're captured by criminals. As you can tell by me putting them in the stinger, I had a lot to say about them. Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Fourth Wall. Thanks for watching!